Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hi there.
So, as somebody that's been a fitness trainer, personal trainer, run boot camps, which were a lot of fun, and done a lot of studying of nutrition as well, and lifestyle. It's just hits me big to see this. 44% of older millennials already have a chronic health condition. So, what does that mean for their future? 44% of millennials, and now this is millennials beginning to turn 40 in 2021. So to me, this just screams that the system doesn't really work so well.
No, no, it does. Well, it works well for them.
Yeah, and of course, we got to tiptoe the line because that's the world we're in. But it talks about this lady, Kristen Bennett, starts off her day by swallowing about 14 different types of supplements, vitamins, designed to help keep her, from suffering, really, and keeping her dis-ease at bay. And she has relapsing remitting MS, which is a central nervous system disease. And it's actually, unfortunately, relatively common in this country. I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry, and the head pharmacist there, his wife had it. And so he had done a ton of studying into it, and he was convinced it was mostly due to the environment and things we're exposed to in the environment. As an abnormal amount of people that seem to get this seem to be, middle class females, really. Not that that's it exclusively, but that's what his research had shown. Now, she had just turned 40 last month. You got to wonder what everything that we are being exposed to is doing to us. So the oldest millennials are hitting 40, and in many cases, finding that they're not better off than their parents. Maybe, in this day and age, not better off financially, as, that gap between the haves and have-nots keeps increasing, but also not better off necessarily physically. I remember my grandma, who passed on at 70, um, bless her, she did look old at 70. And nowadays, you will see people that take care of themselves that look at 70s, in their 70s, they might have as good a health as somebody a generation ago did in their 50s and look amazing, really. It's so much is about our lifestyle choices. The choices we make are really key and critical. Of course, there are things like the MTHFR gene, which has been called by a kind of a swear word we could say in certain circles, that gives you a predisposition, or can give people a predisposition to all sorts of autoimmune diseases. But when we see this out of Healthline, 70% of Americans are on medication. Have we become a pill culture? And this is 8 years old almost now. I bet you that number has gone up dramatically. John Hopkins, we see this over here, says studies suggest that the system is the third leading cause of fatality. The system itself. And I've seen some sources saying that you might notch it up 1 point, you might notch it up 2 points. And then we see this from the CDC themselves. Obesity is a common, serious, costly, and deadly issue. Prevalence of obesity was 42.4% of adults, 2017-2018. From 99 to 2000, it was 30.5%. That's a huge increase. That's probably a 40% increase thereabouts. That's not good. That's trending in the wrong direction. And what does that do? Well, you could see annual estimated medical cost of obesity was 147 billion back in 2008. It's way higher than that now. And we just got through a period of lockdown that made it really hard for people to get out, move about. And maybe in some cases, be living their best, most optimal, healthy life.
Right. And they've done their best to lock people down, and it's really sad because people are outside trying to exercise, but they're still wearing a mask.
And honestly, we inhale O2. We're meant to inhale O2. What we expel is for the trees. It's a symbiotic relationship we have with the plant kingdom, and it's not natural to do the opposite or to take in large amounts of carbon dioxide. It's just not natural, and that could lead to a lot more issues as well. And then, of course, the situation, the plague upon the land, it did lead for a lot more people to be sedentary, to not be out in the sunshine, not be out exercising, and not be out socializing, which is a great thing to do. And it picks us up. If you look at blue zones are places where around the globe, and they're in different areas, Costa Rica, for instance, Sardinia, these are blue zones. These are places where people live well into their 80s and 90s and are healthy and vibrant. What do they have in common? Well, besides eating a mostly plant-based diet and a tendency to eat, if they are eating animal proteins or any sort of flesh, it tends to be more towards the fish side of things, but mostly plant-based. But one of the keys is they socialize. And they have a strong social network because we are social animals. So again, that's something else to consider. Also, regular exercise. They're active. They're in areas with good weather, for the most part, and places where they could get out and get exercise. BMI is your body mass index. Now, some people will throw it out with the bathwater in a sense that, well, if you are a bodybuilder, for instance, if you are an athlete with an excess amount of muscle in proportion to the average person, yeah, your BMI might be a little bit heavier. It's basically you take your height, you divide it by your weight, and that gives you your BMI. And, I'm going to embarrass Cindy here. Okay. I'm going to share with you Cindy. Cindy is 5'5" and she weighs 115 pounds. Her BMI is a 19.1. So she's healthy. She's in that normal weight category. I'm pushing it a little. I'm like 5'11 and a half, but let's just say 5'11, and my weight is typically about 165. My BMI is 23, so it's in the healthy range. And yet, most people who would see me would say, "Well, he's kind of thin." It's because of the culture that we're in. Now, if we were back in 1940 and they saw me, they would say that's an average Joe. That would probably be a term they would use back in 1940s, right? So one thing that my allergist had told me a long time ago when I was going to an allergist, this is like when I was in my 20s, because I was consuming everything, just trying to get bigger and bigger, weightlifting a ton, and really wasn't doing myself any favors. But he just said that whether it's muscle or whether it's fat, your heart's still doing a certain amount of work. And as we're going to take a look at, your body has so much longevity built into it. Just like extra miles on a car's engine, burning extra amounts of food, especially food nowadays that could be GMO, that could be contaminated with all sorts of things. And even the oxygen that we breathe, if we're in a city environment, that's still bringing in toxins into the body. And so it'll accumulate more toxins. One of the tools that you can do, which we've talked about, is fasting and intermittent fasting. And if you do a 36-hour water fast, studies have shown that your immune system actually gets a complete reset. It increases the stem cells, increases human growth hormone. You get into autophagy. You're also in ketosis, so you're actually burning fat off the body, and the fat is where toxins are stored in our body. Tons of benefits for that. Intermittent fasting is wonderful as well. We utilize intermittent fasting all the time. Like right now, I haven't eaten in 24 hours. And I'm debating whether I eat tonight or do a 2 or 3 day fast. I did a two-day water fast 2 weeks ago, and I was amazed. I was even amazed at how much better I felt after it. It was appreciably more impactful than it's been in the past, and I think that's because everything is changing, and also because unfortunately our world is more toxic than ever.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. I mean, everywhere we look, everything we take in has some type of tinge of toxicity to it. So we have to be constantly detoxing.
Yeah, I don't know how many people we've talked to that have lymphatic issues now. It seems like the majority of people are going through lymphatic issues, swollen lymph nodes, things like that, just because of all the toxins around us. So the one thing that always shows an increase in longevity is caloric restriction. And, this has been done on mice, this has been done on primates, this has been tested with humans. It always works. And, if you, for instance, and I've said this so many times, like one of my friends was saying, well, remember, you need to take in 2,800 calories a day as an active male. And I know with myself, I don't ever take in that much, really. Typically, for me, I'm probably 1,400 to 1,800 a day is, I would say, what I take in, and probably more towards the 1,400. Actually, Cindy might take in more than I do.
I do.
On a typical day.
Yeah, I burn fat really fast, so I'm always kind of eating.
Yeah, and at 115, her weight's perfect. She definitely doesn't need to lose any more weight. But what this does, if we are maintaining a stasis point on 2,000 calories, if you basically chop 400 to 600 calories off of that, reduce it about 30% or so, typically the studies have shown that you'll increase your longevity by about 7 years, and you'll be healthier too. You'll actually be healthier. Um, it's really something to think about, because what you need is nutrient dense foods. You want your foods to have a lot of nutrition. If you're drinking a Coke, there's nothing in that. That is.
It's like minus.
Yeah, I mean, we've also talked about prana with food. Some foods will give you a net gain in life force. Others will be neutral. And then there's others that will take more life force to digest than they give. And so, basically, there again, kind of wearing out the body. So, to give you some idea, what's some nutrient dense foods? Well, nuts are very nutrient dense, and sweet potatoes, salmon is actually, if as far as taking in any sort of meat, flesh, beans, legumes, kale. Kale is really, really nutritious. Quinoa and berries of all sorts, dandelion greens as well. So, nutrient dense is what we need to look at. And there's a lot of other things we could add to it. Basically, instead of reaching for the iceberg lettuce, like we went to a restaurant because we've been in the RV so much. And, the salad was iceberg lettuce. That's just basically water. So you want more like spring greens, better yet, maybe even spinach, baby spinach, kale, things like that. So nutrient dense. Spirulina, chlorella, those are amazing blood purifiers. Garlic, there's so many things that will add life force to you, increase your chi, help your body process. Exercise adds years to your life. One study found the average 65-year-old can expect an additional 12.7 years of healthy life, meaning he will live disability free until the age of 77.7. Highly active 65-year-olds, however, have an additional 5.7 years of healthy life expectancy and will remain disability free until 83.4. Without exercise, you can increase your risk of a whole assortment of chronic illnesses. However, with exercise, you can reduce your risk of chronic disease. You gotta move it so you don't lose it.
Well, yeah, and you're mentally too. That's why I need to exercise, because mentally I have too much energy stored in my body, and if I don't diffuse it, I go nuts.
Yeah, well, because also when we exercise, we produce those feel-good hormones. The body produces the things that lift us up. And, I've always been more of an exercise fanatic. So, I loved going to the gym. It was like a chapel for me, a church for me, getting to the gym and working out hard. But getting out in nature is so important, because you want the fresh air, you want the prana. If you get out to a place where you're surrounded by trees and just let yourself breathe deep, it's amazing. We talked about how you can alkalize your body fastest by deep abdominal breathing. Deep abdominal breathing. Inhale in, move the diaphragm downward, expand all the way, the belly going down as far as it can. Feel expansion on the sides, feel expansion in the front like a baby breathing, and in the back. Then you can also inhale up into the chest after that for full breaths to clear the lungs. It's so important and so alkalizing, because dis-ease thrives in an acidic environment. So, when you're drinking soda pop, you're just acidifying your body tremendously. And the other thing that tends to really help is eating a lot of live foods, because they tend to be overall alkalizing. Most fruits and veggies are alkalizing or neutral. They're not really acidic. It depends on if they are ripe or not, too. That does have an effect on them.
Yeah, big effect.
So just wanted to share this with you guys, because, what's wrong with these numbers that we see? It's the system we find ourselves in. It's not a healthy system. Chronic health conditions, well, they make some people chronically rich.
They sure do.
We could just kind of put it that way. So as always, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Anybody that needs to set up an appointment, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. Make sure you are subscribed and have the bell clicked. God bless. Stay healthy, guys. Namaste.
Namaste.